Hey, thanks for joining me for today's video. If you watch movies or TV or YouTube videos for that matter, you've no doubt seen some pretty cool aerial video clips. Could be maybe a car chase or a neighborhood or cityscape flyover, or maybe just some epic remote landscape where people are hiking in the mountains. And these kinds of shots used to cost a fortune, requiring a helicopter and a cinematographer. But for about the past 10 years or so, nearly all of these shots are now done using some pretty advanced video drone technology. And in most cases, the drones that filmmakers are choosing to use to make these shots are made by a company called DJI. And that's because DJI has a reputation for building some of the best engineered drone and video tech that you can get your hands on at any price. So personally, I've owned 3 of their drones over the past, 6 or 7 years. And I currently regularly use their Air 2 and Air 3 drones. And that's because they are reasonably priced for what you're getting. And the feature set and video quality on these drones is really, just off the charts, ridiculously good, would not be too strong. So imagine my enthusiasm when DJI reached out to me back in December and asked if I'd be interested in testing out their newest product line. I was like, yes, sign me up. And so here we are, about 5 months later, and DJI has finally launched that product line. This is their new Power series of portable power stations. Now, why 5 months later? Well, that's because DJI does have a reputation for not releasing new products until they're fully baked and ready to go. And this is the Power 1000 and this is the Power 500 from DJI. And they've been taking an interesting approach to product design that I'll talk about a little bit later in more detail. But I'll just cover some essential information before we go and get these out and see how they perform. So the Power 1000, as the name might suggest, has a rated battery capacity of 1,024 watt hours. And it's rated for a continuous 1,800 watts of AC power output. And it does have a max total output of 2,200 watts with a peak surge rating of approximately 4,400 watts. And it weighs in at just over 28 pounds. Now, in comparison, the Power 500 has a rated battery capacity about half of the 1,000, as you might imagine, at 512 watt hours. And it's rated for a continuous output of 800 watts of AC power with a 1,000 watt total output max. And it does, I think, have a peak surge output of about 2,000 watts. And I say I think because version 1.0 of the manual actually didn't provide that spec, so I'm making an assumption there. And the Power 500 does weigh in at just about 16 pounds. Now, both units do use lithium iron phosphate battery chemistry, so that's good. And as such, they're rated to maintain at least 80% or more of their original capacity, even after 3,000 full charge and discharge cycles. And that should translate to a long-term service life of at least 10 years with daily use, or much longer if you're a more casual user. Now, both of these power stations are designed to be quite capable as general purpose power stations, like a lot of the alternatives that I review on this channel. But they also have some interesting design characteristics that are particularly interesting and handy if you happen to be a DJI drone owner. All right, so let's go run these guys through the paces, and along the way, we'll talk more about some of those interesting design choices. All right, while I'm charging the Power 500 all the way up to run some tests, I've got the Power 1000 run all the way down to run some different tests. But in the meantime, let's talk about some of these interesting design features. So both of these have 2 Type A and 2 Type C. These are PD 100 outputs on the Power 500, and they're PD 140 watt outputs on the Power 1000. And then these are a maximum of 24 watts on the Type A. Same on the Power 500, these are 24 watts. These ports for our AC outlets are 120 volt. I did verify that, and we'll double check that when we do the load testing. And then you've got the, over here, you've got the AC charge port. And this charge port, at least on the Power 1000, has the ability to toggle easily between slow charge at 600 watts or fast charge at 1200 watts. And I really like the fact that there's a mechanical button to allow you to do that. Because if you're not in a hurry, why stress the battery cells when you don't have to any more than necessary? Go ahead and charge at 600 watts. Now, one thing you may be noticing on here is that there is no 12 volt socket, no 12 volt 10 amp car socket, but there are these large style DC connectors. Now, DJI calls these their SDC connectors. In fact, this Power 500 also has an SDC port. Now, what is an SDC port? These are input and output both, DC input and output ports. And you can buy multiple types of accessories that utilize these ports. So it could be things like if you want to charge this thing from your car through the car's 12 volt, well, they give you an adapter that connects to the SDC port and then allows you to connect through a little XT60 connector on this module here to your car charger. So you can charge it through your car. Or if you want to solar charge this, they have a solar panel adapter. So this does not have a built-in MPPT charge controller. That is actually this little module here. And it has an output to the SDC port. And it has the ability to take up to 3 solar panels in parallel. And these are all XT60 connectors. So if you don't need to charge this via solar, well, you don't have to pay for the charge controller. That's optional. If you don't really care about charging this via your car, well, you don't have to have this optional cable either. And then if you want to maybe say power a 12 volt fridge through the DC port, they do make a SDC to 12 volt car socket, that 12 volt 10 amp car socket that you can use to run, say, a DC fridge or other devices that might utilize that socket. So it's very modular in that design. So this cable here is going to allow me to connect directly to the SDC port, and on the other end I can connect that directly to my Air 3 drone batteries and charge them faster than I can use them. So faster than I can discharge them. So that's pretty cool. So they were really thinking of the DJI drone users when they designed these power stations. And again, completely optional. You can still use it just like a regular power station. All right, obviously DJI is not in the solar panel manufacturing business, so they have contracted their solar panels out to a company called, looks like Zygnus. I'm not familiar with this company, but I can tell you, as everything else that DJI markets, this is an extremely high quality solar panel in terms of construction. Super heavy duty canvas. It's got a 4-panel fold out design, which makes it super compact when you fold it up. Let's see what's in the pouch here. It does have a kind of a waterproof zipper on it. And then it has got a very long, probably 2 meters plus with an XT60 connector on it cable. So let's get these things set up and then we'll try it and see how they work. So these I think are perfectly situated in terms of output for that parallel connection. So the specs on this panel, and I'll give you a close-up here so you can see it better, but 100-watt panel, these are 19.8 volt panels that output about 5 amps. So this is ideal because it is a fairly low amperage panel. So these are perfect for parallel connecting, because when you're parallel connecting, you are doubling, or you're adding up the amps, not the voltage. And you do need to keep that voltage fairly well controlled. That's why we're not using serial connections here for that charge controller on the option that you can get with the Power Series. So these are going to end up being, if I put these together in that, they're going to basically end up being a 20 volt input maximum with about a 10 amp current input. So yeah, let's find out what these are like setting up. Not sure how well this comes out in the sun, but we are doing 150 watts, which is pretty good out of a 200 watt panel. So that's 75% of rated input. So that's actually pretty typical for good quality panels. You can see these are, because they're brand new, they have a little bit of a bow in the center because the folds have not been worked out very much yet. So they have a little bit of memory from being stored. Now this is a pebbled ETFE coating, so these are very, very durable. They do have metal tie-down grommets, which again, very nice. Nice long cables, and they do have the 3-way elastic legs, which makes that really nice as well because they're super easy to fold up. This little elastic strap right here will cinch that up so it doesn't get in the way of the Velcro, so the legs will just sort of pop back into storage position automatically as soon as you lift it up. So again, very good design. Very high quality materials. Again, getting 148 watts. We're at 2%. So should top this thing off in fairly short order. All right, it is just about 4:15 in the afternoon, and I did move these around a bit to keep them in the sun. But we are at 100% full on this Power 500. And I put these out, I would say, right about noon. So yeah, so 4 full hours is basically what it took for reasonably clear sun to fill up this. So 200 watts, these particular 200 watt panels would be the bare minimum to fully charge the Power 1000 in a full day of of sun. And that would be making sure that you do move those around a little bit to keep them facing the sun in a reasonable alignment. So on the Power 1000, I think the 200 watt solar panel or panels is bare minimum. 400 watts would be a little bit better, just to make sure that you are fully topping that off, or able to fully top that off if you need to rely on solar recharging for the Power 1000. But in any case, I really do like these little panels. They are very rugged and very compact and very easy to deploy. So excellent choice if you need to solar recharge these Power Series, either the 500 or the 1000. All right, let's take a closer look at this little charge controller module here, the solar charge controller module. Now it does have some mounting screws, because you can actually mount this on the side of the unit. They give you the hardware to do that. Now I've got an XT60 going into one of the 3 parallel connections there, and I have got a couple of 200 watt solar panels. They're not an ideal match for this because of their particular voltage and current output characteristics, but I've got those already paralleled on the outside coming into a single connector. So those are generating somewhere about 20 volts and maybe somewhere around 20 amps. Now this thing is capping me, according to this, at about 16 amps max, and it does have a 30 volt max on this, which is why this is parallel instead of allowing you to connect them in series, because you can't exceed 30 volts without damaging this charge controller. And yeah, so anyway, let's just do a check here, turn that on. Now it is pretty late in the day here. It's just almost 6 o'clock. Still have some okay sun outside, partly cloudy. So out of that 400 watts, I would guess we're gonna get a little bit north of 100. But yeah, around 126. That's fairly typical, what I would have expected this time of day, with the sun being where it's at and the clouds being where they're at. So yeah, I'm gonna just kind of let this charge. It's not gonna fully charge by any means before the sun goes down, because we're just going to keep dropping here in terms of input watts. And then we'll check back in the morning, and we are going to see how it's doing and if it resumes charging in the morning like we would hope that it would do. All right, it is actually 11:30 in the morning. Pretty decent clear skies with only light puffy clouds here and there. Clearly this thing has resumed charging wherever we left it off last night. I think we were at, I don't know, 10, 12%, maybe 14%, but so we got about 50%, 54% here. We're at 170 watts. It is definitely charging, and even at 170 watts input, 50% before noon, definitely can top this thing off in less than a full day of good sky conditions using this charge controller. Now I'm not going to rerun this test on the Power 500 because, frankly, it's the same charge controller that you would use on both units. So I do know that it auto resumed in the morning without me having to do anything, and it is definitely off to the races. So no doubt it would be performing the same way on the Power 500. So solar charging test, definite pass. All right, let's do a combination load test and AC discharge capacity test to see how much out of that 1024 rated watt hours we can get out of this AC inverter. Now I'm going to try to run this near the max of about 1800 watts, which is the max continuous rating for this AC inverter on the Power 1000. Coincidentally, it's also the max rating on my little watt meter, and I have to run, since my oil heater doesn't quite output 1800 watts, I'm going to have to run it at max, and then I'm going to add another small heater here as well. So I've got an outlet strip on the floor, which is coincidentally rated for a max of 1800 watts. So we're going to see how that all comes out. So let me go ahead and turn on the AC inverter. And I think this little heater will kick on automatically if I turn it on. And we should be able to see the watts there and the watts here. All right, we are close to 200 watts. Let me go ahead and add some load from the oil heater and see how close we get. All right, we're not going to quite get 1800 watts. We are just shy of 1700 watts, but I really can't put much more load on this and still be able to record what we're doing. So let's see if we can run this all the way down at very near max output on this Power 1000. So I'll start a time lapse and we'll keep an eye on it. By the way, while I'm doing this time lapse, just note how quiet this thing is, running nearly full output. This has got to be one of the quietest power stations, certainly in the top 2 or 3 that I have tested. All right, looks like we are completely depleted. Let's find out how we actually did here. And should note that it ran all the way down at nearly max capacity, so it does pass the load test. And we got 850 watt hours on the dot, it looks like. So out of a rated 1024 watt hours, that should give us about a very solid middle of the road average number of 83% of rated capacity. All right, let's do a quick check and find out on this Power 1000 here how clean the AC output power is and whether or not it generates a lot of noise if you wanted to do something, say for example, using a PA system or a guitar amp. So we'll be able to see how clean or noisy that is in comparison to grid power. So let me go ahead and plug this into grid power. Take my microphone and I'm going to hold it in here as a baseline. We're going to turn it on and see what this sounds like just based on grid power. Okay, so I boosted that about 10 decibels or so you could hear it. This is just a very, very slight audible hum. Let's plug it into the Power 1000 and see if we get a different result. All right, now I've got the amp plugged into the Power 1000. Let me put the mic in the same position and we'll see what we get. So we're definitely hearing a significant difference in the volume. So this would not be a power station that you would want to use for a PA or guitar amp type application. So just be aware of that. All right, I just discovered something interesting with this Power 1000, and I believe it works the same way on the Power 500, and that is by default, when you turn the AC inverter on with a quick press, the button will kind of exhibit a breathing behavior. So it kind of fades in and out, as you can see. And what that means is that by default in this mode, it will automatically shut down if it does not detect a load within 30 minutes. Now I have tested it in this mode with the DC fridge actually plugged in using the AC adapter, but set to a fairly high temp. So it was very intermittent and the unit did run for my 24-hour test. So even with the 30-minute auto shutdown, it still passed my DC fridge test. Now, I couldn't actually run it off of DC power direct because I don't have the accessory that converts this SDC port here to a 12-volt car socket, at least not yet. But anyway, if you, for some reason, you wanted to disable the auto shutdown feature, it's actually very easy to do that. You just long press AC until it comes on. Now you'll notice the AC illumination is solid. And that basically overrides the timeout, so it will not shut down even if there is no load detected within 30 minutes. So that's how you override the default 30-minute timeout on the Power 1000, and I believe also on the Power 500. All right, I've got this Power 500 fully charged back up. As you can see, we're back at 100%. Let's go ahead and turn on the AC inverter. And instead of just doing a load test where we're going to run a partial load or near max load for 10 minutes, I'm going to try to put this thing at max load, which should be right at about 800 watts, and see if it'll run that all the way down. So we're going to kind of combine the usable capacity test with the load test on the AC side. So let me go ahead and put a load under this. And this is going to probably put me over, yeah, we're actually at 900 watts right now. We're going to see if this thing can handle that. And let's check the voltage while we're at it. 120 volts. Excellent. All right, so we are running 900 watts. Let's see if this thing will run all the way down at that high of a load. 895 watts. All right, We'll check back, and if it changes before it runs all the way down, I will let you know. All right, the usable capacity test on the Power 500 has completed, and let's hook this up to grid power and see how we did. All right, we got 430 watt hours, and that's out of a rated 512 watt hours. So that gives us a usable capacity out of the AC inverter of just about 84%, which puts this on the high side of the average that I have tested on many power stations. So that average range I would put between 80 and 84%. So this is on the high end of that average number. So good numbers from this Power 500. All right, let's take this accessory cable that's designed for the Air 3 and this SDC charging port here on the Power 500. Let's find out how fast it'll charge one of these drone batteries. Because this can take actually a solid hour to an hour and a half with just USB type charging. Let's see what we get here. Yeah, this battery is basically depleted to the critical level. And it does appear to be giving me just a little kind of a state of charge indicator there. So I'm just about 14.5%. So that's pretty cool. I don't think you get that anywhere else other than just basically the little flashing LED indicators here on the front. 30 minutes. And I'm just going to let that continue to run. But that's a key time interval for me because most time when you're flying, you will get at least 30 minutes of runtime. And we just hit 100% state of charge. But unless you're flying your drone in like sport mode all the time, you're going to get somewhere between 30 to say 38 minutes of runtime. Now that's on an Air 3, which is really phenomenal runtime for these batteries. And so to be able to fully top off a replacement battery in 30 minutes from the time that the drone basically makes you land because the battery level is critical, and then be able to recharge before you have to land again, that's fantastic. That is really fantastic. So this is definitely the way to go if you're somebody who goes through 2 or 3 batteries in a flight session. So they definitely did a really nice job with this Power 500 and the Power 1000 to give you that kind of functionality. So this is really well tailored for drone users. But keep in mind the compatibility with the accessories here, at least at this point, is for the Air 3, any of the Mavic 3, and I think the Inspire 3 line. So that Series 3 drone lineup is the one that is currently compatible with the accessories on this Power 500. Now you can charge any of the other drones through the USB ports or through the AC ports if you want. I'm just talking about this SDC support, accessory support connector. All right, so this video has gotten way too long and I apologize for that, but there was a lot to cover in my defense. So to wrap up on the new Power series from DJI, I'm not even a little bit surprised at how well these are built. Having owned the original DJI Osmo cell phone gimbal, the original Osmo Pocket gimbal camera, and 3 of their camera drones, I've come to expect exceptional build quality from pretty much anything that I buy from them. And these 2 power stations have certainly met my expectations in that regard. Now, I do wish that they had an option for mobile app control. Because DJI has really a great rep for building great software as well. And I would have liked to have seen, kind of what kinds of interesting innovations that they might have included in a mobile app, but unfortunately they chose not to go that route. But I also know that for many of you, you actually prefer not to fiddle around with a mobile app anyway, so probably not a big deal either way, I suppose. Now, they did provide for the ability to do firmware updates using a Windows app and a USB cable, and that does work just fine. I've actually updated firmware on both of these guys. And that's probably more important in the long run than mobile app control. And oh, I almost forgot to mention the warranty period. Both units have a default 3-year warranty, but if you register with the QR code that's on the side of the unit, you'll automatically get that extended to a full 5-year warranty, which is outstanding. Okay, so how much are these power stations anyway? Well, this is one area where DJI kind of did surprise me. The DJI Power 1000 comes in at just $699, while the Power 500 is just $379. And compare that to units from Jackery with basically the same battery capacity and a lot less AC output power spec. The cost for the comparable Jackeries is $9.99 and $5.99. That's for the Explorer 1000 and the Explorer 500, respectively. And those are decent enough units from Jackery. In fact, I bought and still own the Explorer 1000, and I bought it a couple of years ago. But I can tell you from first-hand experience, both the Power 1000 and the Power 500 are superior units in just about every way. Now, if you do need things like solar charging or maybe a 12-volt car socket adapter to run a DC fridge, or maybe a 12-volt car charger adapter, you do have to buy those accessories separately. But like the power stations themselves, those are surprisingly fairly priced as well. And you could buy actually all three of those accessories that I just mentioned for just about $130 and add that to the price of the power station, out the door price, and you're still cheaper than the Jackery alternative by a fair margin. And if you do want to go check out either the 1000 or the 500 and that long list of available accessories they have for them on the website, and maybe while you're there you can drool over all the cool camera and drone tech they have as well, I'll put a couple links down in the description for you below so you can get to those easily. Okay, I think that is a wrap. I do hope you found at least something helpful in the video. If you did, please consider clicking on that like button for me. I'd very much appreciate that. And hey, if you're not already a subscriber, maybe consider subscribing as well. I do offer my sincere thanks for stopping by and watching this fairly lengthy video with me, and I do hope you'll consider joining me for the next one. Until then, have fun out there.